Hey, this is Scott Haase, and today I'm going to talk to you about the splitter. Before we get into it though, 3 super important things that I've talked about with all of these videos. Number 1, when it comes to pitch grips, and especially with a splitter. Number 1 is you take into consideration hand size. When I learned the splitter, it was actually more like a split finger knuckle, but when I learned it, I was like 10, 11. My fingers were not big enough. My older brother, who was in high school, he was a senior, he had big enough hands. I couldn't throw it at that point. Number 2, after just hand size, because if your hand's smaller or bigger, it's going to change it. Number 2 is going to be comfort. If it's not comfortable, especially again with this pitch, if it's not comfortable with the splitter, I would actually just be careful or maybe even just scratch it from your pitch repertoire. Number 3 is repetition. You got to be able to throw the ball over and over and over and over. It's like the free throw theory. If you want to get better at free throws, just shoot more free throws. So, taking all that into consideration with the split finger, what does the grip look like? Couple different variations. Some guys will split the ball here. Some guys will split the ball here. Some will be here. You can see there's a lot of different variations. So whether it's like this, here, 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 whatever it is, the idea is you are splitting your fingers. What does that do? Well, when I was taught this in college, because I never learned the pitch, but I played with a guy that threw the pitch, he said he just did this. So it's kind of like my split finger knuckle, which just knuckled. You don't want a split finger to knuckle. That's not the objective. So throw it here like this. What's actually happening, as opposed to what I was taught, which was that it's actually going to come out of your fingers and rotate forward. If you split enough, it'll come out. Well, that didn't happen either. Is that you do get enough space so that when you throw it, there's just not a lot of force behind it. If I were to put someone in front of me right now and try to push them, I would push them like this. Push them right into their chest, push them back far. If I want to try to take a little bit of force off, I would try to push both their shoulders like this. The further I get away from the middle of their body, the less force I can push them with. I can't impart as much force, so they don't go fast or as fast. So if you're going to punch someone, you punch them right here. You don't punch them with 2 fists right here. So when you throw a fastball, you get right behind the baseball. As you split the fingers, there's less and less force right behind the baseball. Now what happens is you're throwing it the same exact way, maybe even just like the changeup, you throw a little bit slower, but you throw it the exact same way, and because there isn't as much force behind it, the ball goes slower. Because it goes slower, it has a diving motion, they'll say. Basically, it's just gravity. If I throw the ball like this, the ball drops. If I throw it a little harder, it drops a little less, and then it eventually looks like it's going straight. With the split finger, I'm taking speed off of the baseball by doing that, throwing it the same way, it's going to look like it's dropping, so you'll get a tumbling or a dropping or a diving or whatever they want to say on TV movement with the baseball from just doing that. It can be a sick pitch, it can be nasty. The further apart, the more uncomfortable it might be, the more effective it might be. So again, back to kind of the 3 basics, make sure it is comfortable in your hand. I have heard of guys that threw it too much, and actually just talked to a guy yesterday in a game who he presets the pitch. When he comes set, he'll preset it before so that he doesn't have to fumble around to try and get that grip, but his knuckle was starting to aggravate him. So if there's any aggravation in your knuckles, in your hand, your wrist, or anything like that, try to steer away from it if it just sticks around, and maybe even scratch the pitch. But it can be a super effective pitch if your hands are big enough, if you are comfortable, and you throw it enough.